Hi folks, how you doing? RussellTrueResults303.com. Check out the website, link in the description box, Mind, Body, Spirit, Fitness. Put in the healing back and health. Once again, check out the website. Get your free downloads, setting goals, fitness, and nutrition. Follow on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. The podcast is out there. All those links are down below in the description box. Coming at you today with a video on a recap of this book right here. Gary Spence, How to Win an Argument Every Time. So I made another video on how to win an argument, or at least prevent an argument, prevent it from escalating. And I brought this book up, and somebody posted in the comment box they wanted me to give a little outline of this book. So I did. Once again, you're going to have to get the book, though. I got this at the thrift store for like $1.99 it looks like, and I think it was half off, so 98 cents, 99 cents. And the reason why I say get the book is because I'm going to go over some of his locks and keys, as he calls them. But you're going to want to hear his stories. Without his stories coming into play, you're not going to get the real world experience of where he's coming from when he makes this book, in writing this book. And I'll do another one. He has the same thing on how to win an argument domestically, in the home, with your loved one, with your wife, with your children. So I'll make another book on that, but here is the first part of the book. I had to get my notes here, and this is more of, like I said, he's a lawyer, so it's more in those types of debates, public debates, not domestic. So he goes through locks, and I'm going to go through 10. So the number one is, I don't like to argue. We should all try to get along, right? I've fallen victim to this one. We don't want to ever really engage in argument. We don't want to hurt someone's feelings. And his key is give yourself permission, right? You've just got to understand, you got to give yourself permission. Everybody should always get along. And my little reference here is going to probably be good for the next couple keys. But once again, give yourself permission to argue. Arguing is not a bad thing. Maybe arguing is a word that you don't like, since we're in a politically correct society. A discussion. We need to be having discussions, right? In other words, we're never going to grow. I listened to somebody called Jordan Peterson, and he brought it up about the beauty of discussion and argument is it's the coming together of two minds, two spirits, two beings, and they are intertwining and flowing with each other. And once we get into that discussion and that argument, whatever you want to call it, we start exchanging ideas. After that argument, after that discussion, how you can tell if it was a good discussion, a good argument, is you come out of it a better person. Your views might not have changed, but at least you came out of it having a better understanding of the other person, or you have grown and your own beliefs, some of them have died, and now the two of you coming together and having this discussion has created something beautiful and a new you. All right, so lock one, I'm afraid to argue, right? Next, his key is fear is your ally. Fear is energy being released within your body, and you can use that energy for good, right? We've got to understand that this so-called negative energy can be used for something positive. And we need to be able to use that in order to help ourselves grow, help others grow, and have that discussion. Fear is energy. Energy is power. Harness that power and use it for something good. Why argue? We experience pain. Why chance losing? And here's a great quote. The art of arguing is the art of life. Life itself is an argument. And doesn't that make sense? I mean, in anything we do in life, we are always arguing, right? It's kind of like the good angel, the bad angel. You do it, you don't do it. And things that I've said before is you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. It doesn't matter if you lie, if you cheat, or if you do something immoral. It'll get more respect, more money, more fame, more power, right? You do something because it's the right thing to do. Life is an argument. It's a battle of correct choices and wrong choices, positive choices, negative choices in your life, that hopefully once you can start making more and more correct choices, your life is going to get better. Those around you's life is going to get better. The world itself is going to get better. And that's what the whole issue of arguing is, right? Like I've mentioned before, it's about you growing, others growing, and making sure that you can have a respectable conversation to where the other one doesn't get angry and run off and call names or whatever the case may be. Lock 4, I'm not a talented speaker, right? I know I have this one. Like I make all these YouTube videos, some of the people I'm around, oh, you should go give a talk over here. You should give a talk here. We need you to give a talk here. And it's like, oh man, I hate doing that. I'm a part of the Young Catholic Professionals here in Denver, Colorado. There's 13 chapters throughout the United States. Check, see if there's one in your state, if it's something you're interested in. And they tried to get me to go up and give like the before our networking event prayer or introducing the speakers, and I'm like, nah, I'm not good at that stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? You have like 700 videos, 700 YouTube videos, a podcast, and you're afraid to speak in public? It's like, well, it's a totally different ball game, But I'm slowly getting better, and I'm doing things to get outside of the box. But just remember that you are unique. You have your own power, and that nobody can imitate. You are a unique individual that has great talking points. You listen to things that I don't listen to, right? You listen to things that they don't listen to. You have a different perspective and view on the world. I'm not saying that it's always 100%, but you have that different perspective. It's like I tell people when you're reading, I love to read motivational books. That's why I read this book, right? And 9 times out of 10, a majority of these books are all going to have the exact same keys to success, right? Like there's that book out there or something like the 7 keys to success that all productive and successful people perform, right? They're all the same. But you read these books over and over again because even if there's one line, one chapter that is different that brings value, then it is a good thing that you read that entire book and reread all those other things. And besides, the more you reread these things and the more you contemplate over these ideas, the more they can become a part of you. That's another reason why we need to be able to have these discussions. Lock number 5. If I argue, I want to win. And this is, well, what is winning? You've got to understand what is winning, right? Just like a lot of people think that the key to life is purchasing a bunch of stuff and having a bunch of things. Well, is that really success? You can still be unhappy, right? I've got to run and jump that off, turn that off real quick. I was cooking some food. All right, I'm back. I apologize. So let's see. So what is winning? We've got to make sure that we understand because sometimes losing can be winning, right? Just like we can say, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason, whether it's good or bad. That's where God placed you at this moment in time. So that loss can be a win. Like I said, you grow from getting a different point of view, right? So we've got to understand that we've got to know what winning is, and as long as we are growing from the experience, isn't that a win? Sometimes as long as you showed up, isn't that a win? That's what we talk about in the fitness world, right? As long as you show up and you work out, you might not have hit a personal record, you might not have done your best, but once again, you made it. And that's better than 90% of the people out there. When our obese rate is so high and all these other things, at least you showed up. At least you were there. So we've got to make sure that we are defining what winning really means, right? Maybe you didn't change the person's mind completely, but they now somewhat see your point of view and are leaning more that way. They're not as radical or as far left or far right as they once were. And that's all that matters, right? Maybe you just planted the seed. Now the seed can grow in their own mind and their own thoughts because you brought up that one point, like I talked about with the book. You brought up that one point that resonated with them and gives them a better understanding of your point of view. They are more powerful. They are more respected than I am. I know this is something that a lot of people have, right? Issues. I mean, you see it every day when they encounter a musician or an actor. Oh my God, they freak out, right? Some people pass out. They're no different than you, right? It's like they always say, they put on their shoe 1 foot at a time as well. And maybe they're using their power in abuse or what you think is a negative way because maybe they just had a bad day, right? Maybe they're not properly trained themselves. It's the concept of self-esteem, right? Self-esteem. It's called self-esteem. It's what you think of yourself. It doesn't matter what I think of you. It doesn't matter if I think you're the worst person on earth. The difference is, do you think you're the worst person on earth? Do you think you have problems that you need to work on? And if that's the case, then no, I didn't make you feel bad. I just brought up a point that you know is bad in your character and you need to work on it. So, and once again, it's letting people know what you want out of the situation. This is what he talks about in, like, he's in a courtroom and he's talking about people, and he just straight says, by the end of this, by the end of my argument, my closing statement, I want you to have an innocent verdict on my client, right? So he's straight telling him, he knows they have the power. He is acknowledging that they have the power. He is letting them know they have the power, and what I want you to do is this. Right? So, and sometimes they might not even realize they have the power that they do. So empowering someone else empowers you, because now you are letting them know that they are powerful, letting them know that they do matter, that you respect them because of their power. So, once again, something to think about. And that's what it says here. Their power is your power, right? Or same thing, like I put here, he talks about a boss. So you're asking for a raise. So say, hey, I'm coming to you because I know you have the power to give me a raise. And I want to discuss what I have done that I think earns a raise. And if you have any other concerns of things that I might not be doing, then I need to know what they are so I can get that raise, right? But these are the things that I believe I deserve a raise for. You're the person that allows raises to be given, so I am coming to you, right? Lock 7. No one will listen to me. Why should they? And this says anybody can be credible, but you have to be willing to put yourself on the line. You have to be willing to express yourself and your feelings and your thoughts and what you have, the knowledge you have acquired over the years. Because if nobody knows, if you never speak, then how is anybody going to know that you are a very intelligent person and you are worthy of being listened to? It's that same concept of only speak when spoken to. And I think that might be the reason why a lot of people struggle with knowing their true potential and their true power. Because a lot of the time you just mumble off a bunch of dumb stuff, and in reality, maybe you should only talk when asked to. Because that's when intelligent things will come out, because they're going to ask your opinion on something intelligent. And going back to the video on when my boss says, only say, how did I put it in that video? He talks about just trying to say really vague statements. But one thing is, listen to the whole conversation. Wait your turn. And this is coming up as another one of his locks. So you're not repeating something that has already been said, or always pay attention, because you don't want to be repeating something somebody has already said. Or if somebody already said it, like discussed earlier, you want to say, adding on to what Russell said, da-da-da-da-da, right? So, something else to think about there. Telling the truth and being vulnerable, people don't take you seriously. And this goes back to, let's see what his is, sharing your feelings and being credible, confessing your fears. And he talks about this when he is in, once again, in court. And he says, I'm sitting there and I'm struggling trying to figure out what my closing statement's going to be. And I can't figure out anything. And he says, so I kind of have an idea of what I want to go, what the facts are. But sometimes I'll just sit up there and I'll stare at the jury. And I'll start talking and and the first thing I'll say is, right now I am really scared. Just standing up here talking to you, because this man's life is on the line. And I know that if I do not give a proper representation of this individual, then his life could be in jeopardy. you have, you know, and then it goes into you have the power to ensure that this man can go home to his family. And if I don't do my job correctly, I could ruin his life, and da 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 da. And then it snowballs from there. And then he said once he gave that speech, he actually talked to a lawyer, and he's like, "Whoa, man," you know, he's like, "Man, that closing argument started off really bad. You were stuttering, you kind of didn't have any real direction, but a couple minutes into it, then you kind of were cruising." And then he said once he ended up talking to jurors and doing a kind of a a polling, and they said the beginning of it is what really got him, that he told his feelings, that he gave them the power, let them know, right? And doing that brought credibility to himself, because he was becoming more human in their eyes. They were on that same level, which is probably going to go into his next one. Let's see. They argue and I argue back. Did I miss one? Let's see. Tell me truth. I must be in somewhere else I was looking to. Oh no, I just have it in as my notes. Let's see. So one, I thought I wrote it. Maybe I missed it. It was listening with the soul's ear, right? And that's what happens when you're able to connect with them emotionally and being able to have that sympathy or empathy with someone. Block 9, they argue, I argue back, and I still lose. And once again, that's what I brought up earlier. That's because a lot of the times we hear one thing, and then we start thinking about, how am I going to rebuttal this? How am I going to answer this question? And you're not hearing the full argument. You're not getting a true understanding. So sometimes that means when you're talking to someone, you have to say, when it's your turn, okay, let me get this straight. What you're saying is da 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 da. And if the person's like, no, that's not what I was saying, this is what I was saying, okay, let them talk again. Make sure you have a true and full understanding of what they are trying to say. Because if not, the argument's already lost, because you are not on the same level. You're on completely different topics, right? And then what he says next is, that's where he says, listening with the soul's ear. Listen and you will start to win. And this is where he says, like, if you ask a question, someone will say, well, I don't know. And I don't know, or something to where they don't want to express their feelings or their thoughts to you, could just mean that they're uncomfortable and you haven't had that connection with them. And since you haven't had that connection, they don't feel comfortable opening up to you and telling you the way that they truly feel. Which is why sometimes, if you step back to his other steps, that's why you being vulnerable first can usually be the best bet, because you've already become vulnerable, and now they have the opportunity, or they feel comfortable because you have already been vulnerable to begin with. Last one. Lock number 10. This is last. I'm going to do top 10. You have prejudice. That person has a prejudice, right? No matter what, I've always grown up around conservatives, so I have a lot of conservative ideas and thoughts. I grew up Catholic, Christian, so I am prejudiced to Catholic Christian beliefs. But once again, I love the fact, I listen to a lot of anti-Catholic, anti-Christian, Pan-African. I love listening to Pan-African stuff, like Dr. Umar Johnson, who's the other one? David Banner, Dr. I don't even know who the other guy is, but like Red Pill, Blue Pill, these people I listen to, these people are crazy. They're into like summoning demons, and of course they're all more of black power type stuff, but I enjoy listening to those things, you know. So I try not to be prejudiced, and they do dog on Christianity and Catholicism and say it's a false religion, but I don't mind it because I think it's an interesting topic and it's an interesting conversation. But that's what I like to listen to. So his key is, we all have it. Never try to cast it aside. And what he talks about, if I can get this correctly, so he said he had a client who was a banker, and he was a white banker, so this must have been a long time ago when there was definitely more racism in the world, or in America. And he talked about how when they were picking the jury, he decided black people like me, so I want to get an all black jury. So he goes through the process. He gets 8 black jurors and 2 white jurors. And when everything happens, it's just a hung jury, and nobody wins, nobody loses, or the case gets thrown out and his client loses or wins. I can't remember. And he goes, so then once again, towards the end, you start getting the facts. How did this person vote? What happened? And he goes in, all the black people voted against me. Only the 2 white people voted for me. And he goes, and that's because I didn't think of the prejudice that people have. He's all, in reality, coming from whatever state they were in, he said, I should have known that, these black individuals did not like bankers, and on top of it, not liking bankers, they definitely did not like government officials, and he was like a government official banker. And he goes, so I let my own prejudice get in the way of black people like me, so that's what I want, not knowing that in reality they didn't like my client, and I should have seen that they did not like my client. Instead, I thought they like me, so since they like me, they'll like my client, when in reality, no. The I don't want to say hate, but the dislike that they had for my client, it didn't matter how much they liked me, they just disliked him. So he actually won, and those 2 jurors he was still trying to get off of the court, off of the jury. But those were the 2 that saved the case. So there's a lot in there. Like I said, you've got to get the book. This is how to win public arguments. I'm going to make another video on how to win domestic arguments. That chapter is definitely a lot shorter, but I'm going to go with it because 3/4 of this book is on how to win public arguments. But like I said, you've got to be able to get it. You've got to get the book so you can actually read the stories. The stories are freaking awesome in this book, and they're going to definitely help you with those real world, real life examples, right? Me just saying these things, yes, it does some good, and if you put them to good use, they'll help. But once again, it's why make the mistakes when you can read the book, see the mistakes that someone else made, and then just know what mistakes not to make. You're eliminating that difficulty of having failure in an argument just because you didn't want to read the book, right? So I hope that makes sense. So once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to just want to remind you that, of course, you're here for how to win an argument, 10 ways how to win an argument, but this is a fitness channel, health channel, spiritual channel, Catholic Christian motivational channel. So check out all those other videos, and hopefully you'll find great value in that area of the channel as well. Don't forget to follow on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google+. The podcast is out there. Share and like these videos.